Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and you are locked and loaded here for another episode of the only sports talk show that really matters on IUP-TV. So fasten your seatbelt because it's going to be a pretty crazy ride here this next hour. We're going to begin in the Crimson Huddle to talk to some IUP Crimson Hawks football players as we preview the matchup against Gannon here this Saturday and look forward to the Crimson Hawks remaining portion of the schedule. Also take a look at some of their favorite moments here in an IUP Crimson Hawks uniform. Then we'll come back over to the this side of the studio here and talk some Major League Baseball as we recap the World Series between the Royals and the Mets and predict the NL and AL Cy Youngs and MVP awards with our MLB analysts. And then our Big Hit crew will get you focused in here on the fantasy football side of things as we break down things in fantasy football here at the midway point of the season. Some players who have overachieved, some players who have underachieved as well. And then we will look at the National Hockey League here in the penalty box, recap the early portion of the year, about 12 games in, 4 teams in the world of the National Hockey League. Then we'll close the shot with Will Gaucher in the 2-minute drill. It's going to be a lot of fun, ladies and gentlemen. And as the ears say, you're tuned in right meow.
It's hard to explain. It just became home. There are hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes and faculty that really get to know you. Amazing internships and everywhere, programs that help to find a job that is right for you. It's what IUP is about, a commitment to your success. See it for yourself. Visit us, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
Hi again, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the only sports talk show that really matters right here on IUP-TV. It's the Big Hit. We're going to begin here in the Crimson Huddle. We'd also like to welcome you all to the Crimson Hawks Sports Network pregame show here at IUP in Gannon Saturday afternoon. It is senior day for the Crimson Hawks, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's introduce our panel of football players here. 3 standout members of the IUP football team joining us here. We'll work from left to right here with sophomore running back Chris Temple, sophomore wide receiver Walt Pegues, and senior linebacker Dorian Lane. Guys, thanks for coming down with us here. I'd like to get things started by looking back on your season a little bit here. You've already matched your win total from last year at 6-2. So are you satisfied with the way things have gone this year? And you look at your 2 losses by a combined 2 points. What could you have done a little bit differently to beat Kutztown and Slippery Rock and be 8-0 right now?
I feel like we could have finished the games better. But as far as being satisfied with the season, I mean, we're in the playoff picture. So I guess I'm satisfied, but I'm not really happy with the 2 losses.
I guess I'm pretty pleased with our performance so far. You know, of course we want a little more. We want to be undefeated like everybody wants to be, but I feel like from those 2 losses we definitely have grown, and I feel like we've learned a lot. And it's definitely a big improvement from last year. So, I mean, we're just going to keep building off that and try to win these next 2 games, and then hopefully we're in the playoffs.
It's a big help that we learned how to finish some, even though that we didn't finish those 2 games that we lost. Now it's just that we have to start paying attention to detail. We've been through practice, we've been through camp, so a lot of plays and stuff is just starting to become repetition to us. Now it's just paying attention to the little things and the details of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. Dorian, I want to kind of spotlight you here. You are the veteran of the group. This is a very young team, and you are the only defensive representative here. These other 2 guys are on the offensive side of the ball, but your defense has been tremendous this year. 16 interceptions, second in the conference. So I want to know what has contributed to your defense's ability to force turnovers and even score with the football. You've done a tremendous job so far this year.
It all has to go to Tort with all his defensive play calling. It's just getting guys in the right place at the right time, honestly. You know, sometimes a little luck happens, ball get tipped, and then it's able to be returned easily. But then most of the time it's players' will and the effort that we give out there on the defense. And it's just that we want to score, we want to take the ball away, we want to be the best defense in the nation. And that's pretty much it.
Absolutely. You're the only defensive representative here. You're also the only senior of the group here. So I want to ask you, of course, the seniors are always leaders on any given football team. So look at your counterparts here, both sophomores. What are the things you've tried to instill in younger players like Walt Pegues and Chris Temple and the entire group of underclassmen?
Just don't waste any time. because time doesn't stop for anybody, and it just seems like I was a freshman not too long ago, and now I'm a senior getting ready to go out into the real world, and I'm just trying to enjoy this ride with them. And I just tell them to just enjoy each and every moment, because it could be your last one ever.
Absolutely. Walt and Chris, I want to kind of go over to you guys now. How has Dorian and the senior class helped you guys grow as players coming from high school? You were kind of the leaders. You come up now, you're the younger guys, and leaders like Dorian, how have they helped you?
They really showed us the ropes. I mean, the transition from high school to college is pretty steep, so they really helped out a lot with that too.
Yeah, basically, like what Chris said, and I just feel like our senior leadership this year is like much stronger than I feel like last year, and it would definitely have grown. And we've seen that everybody's buying into it. You know, they're taking practice more serious. We're just everything pretty much just buying into all in, no matter what. We're just all the seniors. They've definitely done a great job. Every game is important. Every practice is important, and we're just living in the moment and just trying to get better each and every day, and the seniors have definitely showed us the way.
Yeah, the seniors certainly a group that have to kind of set the tone for the entire team, but I want to address you all here as a group and look at your favorite memory from this year or your entire career here at IUP. I know you guys have only been here a couple of years. Dorian, you have a little bit more experience, but what's your favorite memory so far from being an IUP Crimson Hawk?
I guess I'd have to say the Cold Bowl MVP, if anything. That was kind of fun for me. I've never really been an MVP of anything, so that was kind of exciting.
My favorite moment of the season had to be homecoming. Chris scored the 6 touchdowns. After that, he was called the 6th guy pretty much, and it was just a fun experience pretty much the whole game. Like, just seeing somebody score that many times, you know, outscoring the entire receiving corps in a single game. It was just a great stretch, and homecoming, a big game, a big crowd and everything. Something got tweeted by John Kuhn from the Packers. So, you know, Packers gave IUP a shout out. It was pretty cool. So.
I would say my most memorable moment here at IUP was when we first won the PSAC championship in 2012. It was just a great feeling to be a champion again. Throughout high school, we went to the championship a couple times, we lost. And so it's been since I was, we call it Midget League back in Pittsburgh, since I won the championship. So that was probably a great moment in my IUP career.
Absolutely. Everybody's had some pretty solid moments here at IUP so far. But I do want to talk about your role on the team here. You all are starters on this IUP football team who's in position to make the playoffs again for the first time in a couple of years. So talk about your role. What do you have to do, you know, in a given game to make sure that things go the way they're supposed to?
Basically, all I have to do is my job. Make sure I do my job right. I trust my brother to do the same thing. So.
Yeah, pretty much just do our part. I guess this year I'm the only returning receiver on the team, so I guess I'm got to be more of a leader and within the receivers. You know, just help those guys out. They help me out as well, but just do our part. Everybody do our part, and 11 guys doing their job leads to success.
Yeah, piggybacking off what they're saying, the DYJ is what our coach preaches a lot. Just do your job. 11 people doing their job, and I mean, they practice too, so good plays are going to happen in the game. But as long as that you have the mental will that overcome anything, that you'll be perfectly fine. And
another guy that's kind of done his job this year has been your freshman quarterback, Lenny Williams, transferring in. This is his first season. It's a redshirt. He is a redshirt freshman, but he's been making some phenomenal plays. I know you've all seen it this year. Just talk about Lenny and how special of a player is he coming in here to IUP and leading you guys to a potential playoff berth.
It really just adds another dimension to our offense. We have so many weapons, and now having a mobile quarterback, it's just really scary.
He's just a great playmaker. He's a great guy, period. He's just humble. He's a good leader. I mean, he's only a redshirt freshman, so I mean, he's only going to get better. And we're just on offense. We're just following his lead. You know, they give him the freedom to pretty much do what he wants, take over, let his instincts take over, and just make some plays. And we trust him a lot on the offensive end. He just come in and does a great job. So I'm happy with that.
It helps us. As a defense because we don't have to depend on the offense to just go 3 and out, then punt the ball, and we're back on the field. It gives us time to rest, and then we also like to watch the show because he has a crazy play at least once a game.
Yeah, we've seen that on multiple occasions. A couple of big time runs already, setting school records here at IUP, but. I know this year isn't over, but with some younger players and Walt and Chris, we do want to look at the future here. What do you think we can expect out of this team in the next couple of seasons, knowing that the offense is going to be led by quarterback Lenny Williams, you guys, and everybody else? This is a team that has a lot of young players, and you have to expect you're only going to get better, right?
Yep, we're only going to get better. It's just the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fact that, I guess, freshman and sophomore classes, these last two classes, it's a whole lot. It was like you're like 18 to 20 deep in like each class. So I mean, we just got to keep building that identity as a team and learning from D Lane and the older guys. Pretty much just building that identity and trying to build off of that.
Certainly recruiting classes have been a little bit bigger the past couple of years, but let's get back to this year, and it's got to be good to come back home for you guys. 2 consecutive games on the road. Slippery Rock and Clarion come away last week with a 28-14 victory, but this Saturday it's the Gannon Golden Knights coming to town here for Senior Day. Let's talk about this game a little bit. What are the challenges that Gannon presents, and how do you overcome those challenges and earn a victory on Saturday?
Well, they're a really veteran team. Their defense is mostly seniors and juniors, so they're experienced, they know what they're doing, so that's going to be a challenge offensively.
Yeah, we know Gannon is always tough pretty much. I mean, they were picked to win the conference in the beginning of the year. Last year we had a tough game up there, so I mean, so we definitely know that Gannon is going to come to play, and it's a lot on the line this game too, so definitely going to have to go out and play our best game of the year.
They have a lot of big weapons on offense. They have a good running back. They have a very, very good quarterback, and they have a nice core of receivers. But really, when it comes to us, we just have to do our jobs, because we quote ourselves on trying to be the best defense in the nation. So to do that, we have to shut down the best offenses each and every week.
Yeah, and certainly no shortage of good offenses. It seems like every week you look at it, teams are putting up 350 passing yards or whatever. So certainly going to be a challenge. That game is at 1 o'clock, and Dorian, I do want to talk to you here. It's probably going to be tough to put into words, but how important is the remainder of the season to you, knowing that your times to suit up in an IUP uniform are winding down?
Not even that. It's just that every game is a playoff game, because at this point in time in the season, if you lose, you're going home. You're not going to make the postseason. So each and every week is like a championship week to us. So we come in preparing like this is it for us. Like this is it. We're backs against the wall. We have to win this game. There's nothing else. We have to overcome anything and everything that is going to be thrown at us during the game.
Absolutely, and I want to kind of end this interview here looking at what you think, how the rest of the season is going to play out, and any final parting shots you may have for the folks watching on IUP-TV and on the Crimson Hawk Sports Network. So what are your expectations for the rest of the season here?
Well, I mean, of course I expect to win, but we got to take it 1 week at a time, so we'll see how this weekend goes.
Yeah, just week by week, just keep trying to get better as a team, you know. That's the only thing we can control is bettering ourselves as a whole team, and just every week, you know, just attack the week and go through it and pretty much just keep winning, try to keep winning. And these next 2 weeks are big, last regular season games, and then hopefully we're in the playoffs, and then anything can happen there. You know, just win and keep advancing.
Well, since this is my last season, you know, I want to expect to go to the playoffs and make the championship run. But as a team, we're going to take it day by day, and then day by day, we're going to take it game by game. You know, hopefully we come out with a victory each and every week so we can keep playing. Absolutely.
Very good. Thanks for coming, guys. I'd like to thank Chris Temple, Walt Pegues. You can hear him on the women's basketball call on 90.1 this year as the women's basketball color commentator, and senior Dorian Lane. Thanks for coming. We're going to take a break here on The Big Hit, come back with our MLB season recap awards here on the Crimson Hawk Sports Network. We'll send you to the field for pregame. It's IUP and Gannon coming your way right after this. So guys, with the tournament coming up, what are IUP's chances this year?
I think they have a really good chance because the PSAC is not that strong compared to IUP. IUP moves the ball a lot quicker than most teams. They're very well-rounded. They've been playing together for a while. They've got a lot of big-time transfers. So I think that they have the edge over most of their opponents simply because they have experience. Experience gives you the edge any day of the week. So that's definitely why I think they can win the PSAC tournament for sure. What do you think, Norm?
Welcome back into the Big Hit. We're here on this side of the studio, and we're going to talk some Major League Baseball here. Probably the last time this semester we talk some Major League Baseball here as we recap the season and predict the awards that will be handed out this year. We're here with our MLB analyst, Malusi Kitchen, Jared Brown. Guys, we'll start with the all-elusive two-part question here because the Mets and Royals played in the World Series. The Royals came out victorious in the World Series. So were you surprised at all by this outcome? And also, do you think that Salvador Perez, who was named World Series MVP, deserved that particular award?
I think the series itself was a little bit of a letdown because the way the Mets have been playing up till now, they had been pretty dominant. I mean, their batting was on, their pitching was on. So I think I expected a little bit more than 5 games per se. For me personally, like I didn't think this was going to end in 5 games. The Royals were just so dominant coming back, you know, being down. But the Mets, I think, in the late stages, you could really see how, you know, inexperienced that they were coming down the stretch, and they weren't able to just pull it out. So, I mean, for my expectations, it wasn't as best as World Series I wanted to. For the second part, I think Perez did deserve the award because of his late game heroics to actually, you know, push them into the World Series. I mean, it's hard to say because there's so many good players that contributed to the team, and there's such a team effort. I think it's hard to just give it to one person, but I think he deserved it in the end.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Malusi. I thought the whole series was a letdown, and I was also shocked by the outcome. I thought the Mets were going to take the series. When you have 3 studs pitching like Matt Harvey, Jake DeGrom, and Noah Syndergaard, you're expecting 3 wins from those 3 guys alone. So you're expecting to go 3-up, 3-0 in the series. But also with, you know, Kansas City had to go through some drama this series with Edison Volquez's father passing away, unfortunately. And Johnny Cueto, he's hit or miss. He was great this series. But I was disappointed with the series. It's the World Series. You want to see 6 or 7 games. You ended up seeing 5 games that were blowouts or just the Mets fell apart. And with Perez winning the World Series, winning the MVP, I completely agree with that. He batted .364 in the World Series, and every time the Royals needed a clutch run, he was either on the base path, or he was knocking in that run. I think he had a great series and fully deserved the MVP.
The World Series, you certainly want history to be made, and it was a little bit underwhelming to Malusi. I think you made a really good point when you mentioned about how it was a complete team effort for Kansas City. And when you look at teams that win the World Series, very rarely is it one player who has a tremendous playoff and leads the team. Everyone has to contribute at least at some point because you're going through a bunch of different teams, whether it be in the division series, the wild card, or whatever. You need different players to step up at different times to catapult you to a World Series title. But Kansas City, they've really become a model of consistency in Major League Baseball. When you look at it, they've appeared in consecutive World Series and won that last one, finally got the all-elusive title. So how long should we expect them to continue their success? They have a good core, and Ned Yost seems like he really has these Royals playing some great baseball.
I mean, I think they'll be good, but I mean, I think the biggest thing for them is I think they capitalized on their momentum and their opportunity. I mean, I don't think they're going to repeat or, you know, they're going to be in contention for World Series, but I just think that it's going to be difficult for them to be constantly getting back to World Series, you know, year after year after year, just because with, you know, you got teams like Houston coming up. I mean, these teams, they're going to be good. You know, they're going to add pieces in the offseason. So it's going to be harder for them to get. And plus, they're not getting any younger either. Some of their core players, I believe, are like 33, 31. So, I mean, they still have time. But, you know, Father Time is undefeated. And I think that, you know, people want more money and, you know, different situations that will come up with this team in the coming offseason. So I think they'll still be good. They'll be a good team. Like I feel like they will. You know, like you said, they have all their core players. They got Hosmer, they got Moustakas. I mean, they have guys that are very reliable. And I think that, you know, if you keep them intact, they'll still be good. But they might not have the same run, but just because of like what we said earlier, what they had to go through, you know, just the pain of losing last year's World Series. And I think they capitalized on that. But I think they're still going to be a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things with that. 1, it's always harder to repeat than it is to win the first one. And 2, you hear this in every sport. During the offseason, you're either getting better or worse. You're never going to stay the same. So the Royals GM, Dayton Moore, he has to make all the right moves during the offseason, especially with teams like Houston, Toronto coming on. in the NL, you have the Cubs and the Pirates coming around. So it's still anybody's World Series next year. The Royals, they're still going to be a great competitive team, but it's tough to make it there 3 times in a row. And I don't know. It's anybody's World Series right now.
Yeah, it certainly is very difficult. We'll see if they're able to continue their success. And it's been a good couple of years for Kansas City, but they're playing at the pinnacle of baseball, and teams are really going to be gunning for them if they weren't already the defending World Series champions. That target on their back kind of grows a little bit bigger, but finally, the offseason here in Major League Baseball, the free agents were announced. So looking at here, we get all the teams back into the fray here, not just the teams that made the playoffs. Which teams do you think are going to be the most active here in this offseason, and what are some of the moves you think that they can try to pursue here in this offseason?
Well, 2 teams that I have in mind are, well, they made move. The Washington Nationals, I think, they already made a huge move by hiring Dusty Baker as their manager, firing Matt Williams, who didn't have enough experience to lead this group into, World Series expectations. But teams are already starting to make moves, and I also think the Houston Astros are going to make moves. They have to upgrade their bullpen, and they also have to find something for left field. And who knows if they're going to keep Ramos or not, because he could be a free agent this coming Saturday. So I think those 2 teams in particular are going to have to do a lot. They're going to do a lot of moving, but I think more the Houston Astros, because I believe their cap is a little bit higher. They have a little bit more money to spend, and with Dallas Keuchel and that pitching staff, I think they're going to want to be able to keep those guys and bring in some more power behind the bat so they can contend and deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, for me, there's really only one move this offseason that matters, and that's who's going to pick up Zach Greinke, who just declared free agency from the Dodgers. And the team I think that's going to do it is the Red Sox. They're a big market team, so they can afford the $23 million that Greinke wants every year. And also, as a team, their team ERA for their starters was a 5.12. That's horrible. They're a big market team. They can afford the players they need to get it done. And I think Zach Greinke is going to be the first step they're going to need to go back to being in contention to what we know the Red Sox can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach Greinke, probably one of the bigger names out on the free agent market here. We'll see a lot of times you look back on the season, it's one of those signings that are kind of underrated and kind of fly under the radar that end up really making a big difference for teams, especially down the stretch and in October here. But it's time to look at our awards predictions here. We've got the AL and NL Cy Young to start. Those particular awards will be handed out on November 18th. So who will earn those awards here in Major League Baseball, the AL and NL Cy Young?
For the AL, I'm going with David Price. Even though the Blue Jays didn't have a particularly good postseason ending, I still think he had a good enough ERA. He had 2.45. And, the team wasn't quite there yet, but I think he was still the best pitcher in the AL. Right behind him would be Dallas Keuchel, so it's going to be a toss-up between those two. But for the NL, I'm going with Jake Arrieta. Even though, he had a great second half of the season. I believe his ERA was .75 for the second half. He was letting up any runs, and the Cubs had a great postseason run as well. So I think that's going to help booster his chances in winning the NL Cy Young.
I'm going to have to disagree with both of those guys. For the AL, I have Dallas Keuchel. Okay. He really separated himself, I see, during the regular season. He struggled on the road, but back at home, he was unhittable like Jake Arrieta was during the second half of the season. He put up a 2.48 ERA with a sloppy road ERA upwards towards 4. So, and he had a 20-8 record. So he did what he needed to do to help Houston rebound back into the playoffs, and he was the leader of that pitching staff. And also for the NL, I think it's Zach Greinke. He had a 6.66 ERA, and he didn't have the second half that Arrieta had, but the Cy Young doesn't go to the best second half, even though Arrieta did something legendary. It goes to the most complete season. But, you could throw, obviously, Arrieta's in that talk. He had a great second half, best in my lifetime that I'm probably ever going to see. And you could also throw Clayton Kershaw in that mix with the first 300 strikeout season since, I think, Sandy Koufax.
In 1960 something
way
like
back
that.
then, yeah. So all three of them are great candidates, but for me, I'm going to have to give my vote to Zach Greinke.
Yeah, and ever since 1960-something, there's always been a couple of guys in the mix for each award, the AL and the NL Cy Young, and there's no different this year. There's a few deserving candidates, and really any one of those candidates who would win it certainly is well-deserved honor. So hopefully it's just one of those guys that you all had mentioned. I think they all had good enough seasons to qualify for this Cy Young Award. But here we'll close out our Major League Baseball talk here and wrap up our awards predictions when we look at the AL and NL MVP. Those will be announced a day later on November 19th. So who wins these awards? It's not necessarily the team that wins the World Series or makes the playoffs. It's the most valuable player to their team.
I'm going for the AL MVP. I'm going with Josh Donaldson of the Blue Jays. I think, 41 home runs, 123 RBIs. I mean, I think he was just a model of production, especially with the Blue Jays season that they had. I think, they're still, they still have to add some pieces to get where they want to be, which is the World Series. But I think they were off to a really good start because I didn't expect the Blue Jays to be as good as they were. And for the NL MVP, I'm going with Bryce Harper. I think he had a phenomenal season, even though the Nationals didn't even make the playoffs. But he was very valuable to the team, with the managers and injuries and whatnot happening to hurt the team. But Bryce Harper did not slow down one bit. I mean, he had a phenomenal season. And I think he's deservingly so the MVP for the NL.
I couldn't agree with you more. With Josh Donaldson, he stole the show in the AL with batting upwards to 300, upwards to 120 RBIs. I think he had 33 more RBIs than Mike Trout. Mm-hmm. And if you're driving in 33 more runs than arguably the best player in the game, the MVP should be handed to you. There's no arguing it. And with Bryce Harper, batting 341. 95 RBIs and 41 home runs. Those numbers speak for themselves. And the one thing that I find impressive about Harper, everybody's going nuts about like Gregory Polanco, Chris Bryant, Manny Machado, how young and impressive they are. Bryce Harper is still younger than all those guys, and he's viewed as a veteran in the league because just how talented and how raw he is.
Exactly, and he's had a couple of full Major League seasons under his belt as well, so it's very impressive for Bryce Harper. I think he is really a clear runaway for that NL MVP award, but baseball season has come and gone. It feels like just yesterday we were here on the Big Hit previewing the season. Now we're wrapping it up, and what a year it was. Kansas City victorious here in the World Series. So that will wrap up our Major League Baseball season here in our Call to the Bullpen with Malusi Kitchen and Jared Brown. We're going to take a break and talk some fantasy football here at the midway point of the NFL year. We'll get you all your fantasy football information when we return right here on the Big Hit.
Success. We see it every day. Hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes, internationally known faculty who are committed to your success. Real-world experiences to guide you on your career and life path. An alumni network 120,000 strong. I'm IUP President Mike Driscoll. Visit us. Find your success at Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Welcome back into the Big Hit. Kyle Condor here alongside Chris Hayes. We're giving our host Josh Schill one of his unusual breaks to talk a little fantasy football, something we don't always talk about, but when we do, it's pretty special. So Chris Hayes, let's jump right into it here on the Fantasy Focus and talk about a player who has underachieved this season from the aspect of fantasy football.
No doubt about it. It's Andrew Luck, Kyle. He's been really bad, awful, I'd say. 54.9% is his completion percentage, 13 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. That's bad for a guy of Luck's caliber, especially coming into the season. He was supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, maybe even up there with Rodgers and Brady. He's been nowhere near that. His QBR is 37.6. He just hasn't been getting it done for me, and he's been bad. Yeah,
without a doubt. Since Andrew Luck has been in the league, statistically, he's been one of the best. He's known for slinging the ball 50, 60 times a game. So you expect a lot of fantasy points out of that, but with the interceptions he's thrown, he has not lived up to his first-round pick fantasy caliber at all. Another quarterback I'm going to talk about that has really underachieved is obviously Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
The guy's got 8 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Of course, his team's winning, so from a real football aspect, you can't complain if you're Peyton Manning, but fantasy football owners are not happy with their quarterback to this point at all. So 2 quarterbacks there really have underachieved greatly, without a doubt. How about a player that has exceeded expectations this year from a fantasy aspect?
For me, it's definitely Devontae Freeman. I mean, how can you not say Devontae Freeman? 709 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.7 yards per carry. He leads the league in rushing, and nobody's really close to him in touchdowns and yards. I think the next guy's Chris Johnson, who's had a great season too.
Absolutely.
But I'd say Devontae Freeman for sure. He's carried that Atlanta offense. I mean, Julio Jones has been great. Matt Ryan's been serviceable, maybe a little bit above average for himself, his statistics. But Devontae Freeman has been a huge surprise to me and to everybody. I don't think anybody picked him in the first round or second, third. He was probably maybe not even drafted in some cases, but he's shocked everyone.
If you've got Devontae Freeman in a keeper league, I can already imagine that that's who you're going to be keeping next year. You mentioned Chris Johnson as well. Those two guys, way better than the rest as far as exceeding expectations are concerned. Another guy I have in mind is Larry Fitzgerald at the wide receiver position. He's been in the league doing it for a long time now. You expect him to almost fall off at some point, but he has not. He's actually having the best statistical year of his career, and thanks to Carson Palmer and what he's done, as well as that Arizona Cardinals defense, I think it's opened up a lot of windows for somebody like Larry Fitzgerald.
A lot of guys on that Cardinals offense coming out of nowhere, coming from the depths.
Just the way that they're clicking, I feel like it's made a veteran player's role like Larry Fitzgerald that much easier. Now, how about a player that has done well to this point? It could be a guy that we mentioned, maybe somebody that we did not, that we can kind of expect to fall off a little bit during the second half of the season.
Well, a guy who's had a questionable career so far is Andy Dalton as a Cincinnati Bengal. He's been great in the regular season. Maybe not great. He's been good. In the playoffs, he's been bad. He's been horrible. Let's look at his stats. But this year so far, he's been very good. His QBR is over 20 points, what his average is for the previous, I think, 4 years he's been in the league. This fifth year, he's really came alive. He's been playing over his head. His playoff stats have been bad, like I said, but I think so far in this season, Andy Dalton has been probably top 4, top 3 quarterbacks in the league, and he's been great in fantasy too. I picked him up I think 2 weeks ago I picked him up because Ben got hurt, and he started for me a couple of games, and he's been not too bad except for this past week against the Steelers, but Dalton's been okay.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton, a guy who has maybe some say overachieved this season like you have. The team's undefeated, so you can't really complain, but a lot of people still throwing the pretender tag on the Cincinnati Bengals at this point in time. A guy that I just mentioned, and Larry Fitzgerald, is someone who I believe might fall off a little bit. You can't expect him to continue to have the season that he already has because he's older. We saw Peyton Manning last season, an older guy, had a really great first half of the season, started to wear down a little bit at the end. I imagine the same thing is going to happen to somebody like Larry Fitzgerald. You can only last so long at that age. So if he continues to have the season like this, I'm not saying he's going to have an awful second half, but probably not as good a second half as he did a first half.
Cardinals have weapons besides Fitzgerald too. John Brown is a guy that maybe is available in some leagues. You can pick him up if he's available. I'd definitely pick him up, but he's been good too.
Yeah, and even with the offense that they have, they're kind of more of a defensive, known for their defense more than their offense, and at least to some. So now let's flip the script a little bit. Maybe someone that hasn't done well that might break out in the second half. Could be somebody on free agents, could be somebody that's already on a team that could work as trade bait in the future. But who do you think is going to break out here in the second half?
A guy who was definitely drafted top 5, top 10 is DeMarco Murray. And Murray has been not good at all, to say the least. His first game, I think he only had 9 yards rushing. It's unacceptable, and his games have gone down the line. He's been picking it up a little bit. He's been a little better, but Murray still hasn't been very good. But I think he rebounds starting this week against Dallas. He played for Dallas the past couple of years. That's his former team. They're in Dallas this weekend. I think he might put up some big stats. And I think after that, he has some tough matchups ahead, some tough defenses on that schedule. I don't remember it off my head, but you have a lot of tough defenses. And I think Murray could maybe surprise some people. I'd still start him. He's on my team. I'm starting him. I think you still start him and see what he can do because he has that kind of potential.
Oh, absolutely. It's a stretch to think that the Eagles signed DeMarco just to get back at Dallas, but I can guarantee that they want him to get back at Dallas. So we'll see if he's able to do that. If not, the question marks will definitely still be there with somebody like DeMarco Murray, who got the contract that he did. I'm going to look at another running back who has been a star over the past couple of years, and that's Eddie Lacy of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
He's known for finding the end zone. I think that's what has made his fantasy value so high over the past couple of years, especially coming into this season, top 5 pick. In almost every single fantasy draft, he has not done much, and I think that's because he hasn't found the end zone on a consistent basis. I think he's got 2 touchdowns to this point. Last season, he was up 14, 15 touchdowns, even the year before when he was a rookie. So I think as long as he begins to find the end zone for the Green Bay Packers, he's going to turn things around. And I think we can imagine that he will. There's no way he's going to finish the season with 5, 6 touchdowns. I think he'll get up 10, 11 touchdowns during the season.
I agree.
Without a doubt. So there was a couple injuries this past week. Le'Veon Bell, done for the season. We've talked a lot about veterans. Steve Smith is one of them, also done for the season. We've got Matt Forte, done for a couple weeks. Kendall Wright of the Tennessee Titans, done for a couple weeks. Chris, of players that might be on free agents or the waiver wire or maybe on a team that you could trade for, who do you think people should go after to replace some of these injured players?
A lot of those guys were on my team. Keenan Allen, Steve Smith were both on my team. They both went down. They're both out for the year, so you got to adjust. You got to pick up some guys. I'm looking at guys who are backups to those guys. D'Angelo Williams for the Steelers. He might not be available because he played really well for the first 2 weeks with Bell out for that suspension. Williams I think he was the leading rusher in the league for those first 2 weeks.
Yep.
He put up a lot of fantasy points, so he might not be available in most leagues, but if he is, definitely pick him up. I got Jeremy Langford too, the Chicago Bears running back. He's the backup to Matt Forte. Forte is going to be out, I don't know how long, probably a few weeks at least, with an MCL. So I got Jeremy Langford possibly to start, or at least pick up. Christine Michael too for Dallas. Joseph Randall was released by them. I don't see Darren McFadden, the other back in that trio, doing too much. He's getting up there in age. So I got Christine Michael along with Langford and Williams, and also at wide receiver, Kamar Aiken from Baltimore. Steve Smith went down.
Yeah,
he's a veteran. He might be done for the year. So
absolutely. Somebody's got to step up there.
Yeah, somebody's got to step up.
And Joe Flacco has done a lot without nothing over his career. So
exactly.
Sure.
Kamar Aiken seems like the guy who's going to be getting the majority of the receptions. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned D'Angelo Williams as well. I actually have to admit I hopped on that immediately. He was on free agents in one of my bigger leagues. I got him within 2 minutes of Le'Veon Bell's injury, and I have a lot of people asking me to trade for him already. A couple guys that I'm looking at are Vernon Davis. He just got traded to the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning at quarterback. As much as we have bashed him to this point in the segment, you have to imagine that he's going to do something with Vernon Davis like he did with Julius Thomas a couple years ago, like he did with Dallas Clark back in Indianapolis. He's a guy that likes tight ends. He's going to get Vernon Davis the ball, and Vernon Davis has the potential as well. Another guy, Pierre Thomas. He's also joining a new team, the San Francisco 49ers. Carlos Hyde is injured. He might not miss a lot of time, but when he's out, Pierre Thomas is a good guy to have on your team as well. And my last guy is a rookie. That's Dorian Green Beckham, second-round pick out of Oklahoma. The Titans' second overall pick in the draft. Marcus Mariota is coming back. Kendall Wright just went down with an injury. So you have to imagine that Green Beckham is going to step up a little bit. Big prospect, one of the top wide receivers coming into the draft this year. So, Chris, unless you got any final words, I think we hit the nail on the head there.
We're good. I like all your picks to that last one.
I like yours as well. So, guys, that's it here for the Fantasy Focus, our midseason fantasy football recap. We're going to send things to commercial, and we'll be right back. Josh Hill will host the next segment.
Oh, hey, Devontae. I better work on something, man. I want you to check it out.
Keep working on that.
Okay.
Welcome back into the Big Hit, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to close our show out here before the 2-minute drill, talking some National Hockey League in the penalty box. I see the stare from Will Gaucher. He's chomping at the bit to get down there, but we've got a couple guys. You can call them what they want. Just not late for dinner, I guess, is what Andrew said. Sean Fritz, Andrew Friend. Guys, let's talk some hockey here. The season's in full swing, and we're really getting into the flow of things. But one guy that's not is Sidney Crosby, who's arguably the best player in the world. He's been held pointless in 9 of 11 games this season. So what gives? Why has he had such a slow start?
First of all, it's good to have hockey back. I think we're about 10, 11, maybe 12 games into the season for different teams. So definitely a good feeling to have hockey back. But for Sidney Crosby, not so much. I think it obviously has been a pretty rough start for him. I think, honestly, it's nothing to worry about if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Mm-hmm. He's the best player in the world. Obviously, he has been for a good amount of years now. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think it's just a slow start. It happens. You know, different guys around the league, this has happened to. I know Claude Giroux got off to a slow start last year in Philadelphia. I think that's all that this is for Sidney Crosby right now. I think there's been a lot of hype coming into the season, especially with adding Phil Kessel who's been able to light the lamp a couple times for the Pens. Evgeny Malkin leading the team in points. And the thing that people kind of forget about is Sidney Crosby's going up against the best defensive centers in the National Hockey League night in and night out. Sometimes that's going to happen. Sometimes the shots aren't going to go in. He's still getting a good amount of shots. He leads the team. He's in the top 5 in shots taken. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. You keep getting good shots, good scoring chances. The pucks will find the net eventually. Maybe he just needs to get a dirty one to kind of get his confidence going a bit, and I think that will kind of get him going for the season.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, he is a 3.3% on his shots, which is downright atrocious. There isn't really anybody who's, even defensemen are doing better than that. But the thing is that, everybody gets off to a dry start. Even the best players in the league, such as Sidney Crosby. I think that definitely, like you said, he just needs to get a dirty one in there, and he can definitely pick it up from there. I don't think, I've said this last year, Pittsburgh fans love to jump the gun. That's just one of their things. They love to say, oh, wow, this player's not going to do great this year. Our team's not going to do great this year. Just hold on a second. Wait for him. Game works. Exactly. Just wait for him. Sidney Crosby's going to pick it up. I know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to have faith in a guy with the talent and the ability of Sidney Crosby. Pittsburgh as a team hasn't probably scored as many goals as a lot of people thought coming in with all the firepower. It's maybe taking some time to gel, and it's a bit of a different approach on the defensive side of the ice. They're kind of putting more but more of a focus on playing defense, and that can have an impact on countering on the rush or whatever. So a couple of different things contributing to the slow start for Sidney Crosby. But one guy that has not gotten off to a slow start is rookie sensation Connor McDavid. 12 points in 12 games for the rookie from Edmonton. He's settling in quite nicely here in the National Hockey League, but you look at the team, they're 4-8 on the year. Do you think they've underachieved? They weren't expected to really do much, but what do you think with Edmonton?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think they're kind of right where people, at least where I expected them to be. I didn't look for them to contend at all this year. Connor McDavid is a tremendous talent, as all the hype that has surrounded him, being drafted number 1 overall, to the comparisons to Wayne Gretzky in the future. I think he's definitely gotten off to the start that I have expected. It's everything that we've thought he would be, and he's been very, very impressive. But as for Edmonton, as the club, I don't think that it's really anything too shocking. They've got a new head coach, Todd McClellan. Cam Talbot and Anders Nilsson are the goaltenders, and neither of them really have too much experience as starting goaltenders in the National Hockey League. So I'm not really surprised right now. They still have got a core group of young players who still need to develop. They've got some guys on the shelf right now, like Jordan Eberle, who's a veteran, a younger veteran forward who is on the shelf right now. So I think this is kind of how it's going to be for Edmonton a little bit. I think they've got to develop their younger talent a bit more, but McDavid's off to a great start, but it's just not going to be enough this year, I don't think. I think that, he will contribute a lot, obviously, really carry this team, but nothing too crazy. I don't see a playoff run in the upcoming season for them.
Yeah, definitely not. They're an average team. It's just that Connor McDavid is a phenomenal player. I think that he'll continue to be a phenomenal player. You said before we started this that he was compared to Wayne Gretzky, or he's going to be like Wayne Gretzky. And I would agree with that. I think that he definitely shows the talent to be that caliber of a player. But as for the Oilers in general, they're just an average team. I mean, they're a young team. It's going to take a little bit, to get these players to become one whole team and get them, to the caliber that you want, which is a playoff caliber team, which is, it's going to take some time. But I think that, they're just an average team.
Yeah, for Edmonton, they're beginning to really load up with these first-round picks and these number 1 overall picks. So you have to think the tide will turn eventually, but still a little bit too early. This is a really bad franchise that is certainly rebuilding. And with guys like Connor McDavid, that's a really good start, but you certainly will need a little bit more than that, especially in hockey. You need to be able to roll four lines out in today's NHL, no doubt about it. But one team that is really off to a hot start, they've really started the year tremendously, is the Montreal Canadiens. 11-2 this season. That's good for best in the National Hockey League. They haven't missed a beat since a 50-22-10 season last year, which is phenomenal as well. So what's been the key to their success? Obviously a great guy behind the pipes, but it's a lot of things for Montreal.
I think you kind of said it right there. Carey Price, he won the Vezina last year, the Hart Memorial Trophy. He's been phenomenal this season. He's tied for the league lead in shutouts with only 2, but that's impressive thus far in the season. He's been phenomenal in between the pipes, and even their young goaltender that they brought up behind him has played well. I think he actually leads the league in goals against average and save percentage, which is impressive. Because when you have one of the best goaltenders in the game, Carey Price, sitting on the bench, you have another guy backing him up who's played very well himself. Aside from that, they've just really been phenomenal at both ends of the ice, offensively and defensively. PK Subban is on the rise, and I have really been a huge fan of PK Subban over the past couple of years. He leads the National Hockey League in plus-minus right now. He's plus 12. And the crazy thing about it is that, like I said, they're playing well at both ends of the ice. They have, I want to say, 7 of the top 10 guys who are leaders in plus-minus are Montreal Canadiens right now, which is very impressive. I know it's still early in the season, but they're getting goal scoring too. At the other end of the ice, Max Pacioretty, just named the captain this season, has been phenomenal. He's got 7 tallies. I think if they continue to play like this, they're going to be a favorite heading into April and May. They've just been phenomenal thus far.
Definitely. I don't even think that the Canadiens will even stop. I think that they are going to be the team to beat, really. But anyways, as for Carey Price, I think we've all said it. He is the real team leader in this. But also you have to look at their offense. They're really lighting the lamp. On the roster, four on the roster have yet to score. 2 of those people are goalies. I mean, that's ridiculous. Everybody on their whole entire team has scored a goal, for crying out loud. That is a phenomenal offense.
They're really outscoring opponents. They're outscoring opponents. I want to say it's 50-23, 29 around there, in between there. So that's just impressive in itself.
Exactly. It is beautiful to watch. The Canadiens are definitely a team to watch out for. I think that they go very, very deep in the playoffs, if not all the way to the Stanley Cup.
And I just said it in relation to Edmonton. You have to be able to roll 4 lines. You have to have depth scoring. That's been a problem with teams who are loading up in the top 6. You have to be able to score throughout your lineup, because that's what's going to have to
That's
happen.
a big contributor to the Montreal Canadiens too. Guys like David Desharnais have really stepped up. Brendan Gallagher, different guys like that. That's a good point, Josh.
It's things like that that are going to catapult you to an NHL best 11-2. And Montreal, with Carey Price in net, great backup and really good depth, playing well on both ends. No signs of stopping here in the early portion of the season. A team that we've seen have some success is the Chicago Blackhawks. We've seen them probably the modern-day dynasty of our era in terms of what they've been able to do, winning Stanley Cups, winning divisions, and putting up big-time numbers as well. They've gotten off to a slow start this year. They're 6th in that Central Division, and really a big blow to them coming in the form of Marian Hossa. He didn't miss a game last year, but he's going to sideline him for a couple of games, that lower body injury. So he'll be out for a little bit. Should Chicago be concerned? We've got Montreal playing great. Chicago, they find themselves up there in the NHL's elite, but just not playing that great right now.
I don't want to say that they have to be concerned. We are talking about the Chicago Blackhawks. They've been a powerhouse, like you said, Josh, a dynasty in the National Hockey League. But I want to say they should be concerned a little bit just because of the youth they have in their hockey team. They've got a lot of young guys who they're expecting to contribute this year. Obviously, they got rid of a couple of big pieces in this offseason in guys like Patrick Sharp, a good veteran dressing room guy. They got rid of him. He was big for them offensively. He was a good two-way player. They sent him to Dallas. Johnny Oduya, a good, solid defenseman, went down to Dallas with him. Brandon Saad, who is on the rise, a very young power forward in the National Hockey League right now, they sent to Columbus. So they're expecting some younger guys to step up, and now they've got another veteran who goes down to Marian Hossa. I think this just puts more weight on the shoulders of guys like Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane has been phenomenal to start the season, even with all the things that are going on off the ice. He has seemed to just put everything to the back of his mind and just focus on playing hockey. He's been tremendous this season. They've got a good backstop in Corey Crawford. I think Chicago is going to be fine, but I don't think it's not in their best interest, certainly, to fall behind very early in the season in arguably the best division in the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And like you said, Marian Hossa, he isn't a huge loss. I mean, he's a loss, and it sucks that he's not going to be on the team for a little bit due to injury. But he's no Patrick Kane. He's no Taves. If you lost those two players for a significant amount of weeks, then I'd be worried about the team. But right now, no way. I would not worry about the Blackhawks. As you guys both said, they are a dynasty team. I think there's no need for them to worry. Another thing is they're only 4 points behind first place. Yes, they're in sixth place. Yes, they are in sixth place. But 4 points behind, that is 2 games. That's just 2 wins. That's 2 wins away from jumping all the way up to first place. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's look at the stats. Let's calm things down for the Blackhawks. I think that they could definitely go to the playoffs.
Well, they're certainly not out of it in a sense. Obviously, you said just by the statistics, they're only 4 points back.
Yeah.
But I think the key for them is losing a guy like Marian Hossa, and especially with all the veterans that they've lost this offseason and the guys I mentioned, they need some of these younger guys to step up and contribute, which is going to be really, really big for them.
Definitely, and I don't disagree with you on that. I think that they do need those younger guys to definitely step up and definitely fill in the shoes of Marian Hossa. But am I saying that Marian Hossa is the team, the lifeblood of them? No, in no way. Obviously, like you said, Patrick Kane, he and Taves are definitely the lifeblood of this team. Without them, they wouldn't be where they are right now.
Absolutely. Chicago, everyone talks about Taves and Kane, but they would even say it themselves. There's a lot of other pieces around them that are very solid that probably don't get the name recognition or the star recognition that they should because they're a little bit overshadowed, but there's some really good pieces in Chicago, really quick to turn it around there. It won't take much for them at all, but let's go ahead and go to California here, talk about the former Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings because they've been a little hot and a little cold this year here, starting off the year on a 3-game losing streak, and then they rebound with 7 straight victories to follow it off. So they're streaking in California. Would you consider them to be among the NHL's elite, the Los Angeles Kings? They've been a little bit inconsistent this year.
I wouldn't classify them as elite. Obviously, they've got a lot of really good pieces. As we saw, some of the same guys who won the Cup 2 years ago and also in 2012, they've kept a core group of guys together, really. And which is impressive in today's NHL. You know, you look at some of these dynasty teams like we talked about, Chicago and LA, they have kept a lot of core guys together. That being said, I don't want to classify them as elite. They have been a little inconsistent this season, but the pieces are definitely there for them to, get hot again and be kind of a superpower as they were 2 seasons ago. I think this year it's going to be key for them. They struggled on the road a lot last year. I think they got to play a lot better on the road. But anytime you got Jonathan Quick backing you up in between the pipes, you've got a chance to win every night. He's a tremendous goaltender, as he's proven. And I think with him backstopping, I think if they play well in front of him, they have enough pieces there to be a good hockey team. But right now, it's still early in the season. We're only, like I said, 10 to 12 games into the season. Too early yet. Good hockey team, but I don't know. I don't want to classify them or kind of hype them up too much just yet.
Exactly. Like you said, they're a good hockey team. I'm not going to take that away from them at all. But the thing is, do I think they're the best in the NHL right now? I'd have to be a complete and utter idiot to think that. They are definitely not the best in the NHL. That's just that's idiotic to think. Who is? I would say the Canadiens. Now that is a team that you really need to watch for. The LA Kings. Like I said, I think they will make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. I think they'll make the playoffs. But do I think that they're the best team? As I've already clearly stated, no. They're on a hot streak.
Which was snapped last night by Chicago.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So they were on a hot streak, ladies and gentlemen. Just like Sidney Crosby and everybody gets on a cold streak, teams can get on a hot streak too. So let's let's not jump the gun and say they're the best in the NHL. They're not the best in the NHL. Let's just get that
It's a
clear.
fair question. They do have good pieces there. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not saying that they don't have great pieces. Like you said, between the pipes, Jonathan Quick, great player, tremendous athlete. But by no means are they going to be the best in the NHL, period.
Absolutely, and Andrew, my man, reaching out, telling the people, no, not the best team in the NHL, but certainly getting there. Certainly some good pieces in Los Angeles. It's still early enough that things can kind of work themselves out, but we look at it, and slow starts can really hamper a team for the entire year. This 10 to 12 game stretch may not seem very important, but when you're separated by a couple of points at the end of the year, you think and you look back to this stretch and you, man, if we could have maybe got a couple more games here and there, it could really be the difference. But pretty good penalty box segment here. I'm sure Andrew got that 10-minute game misconduct, so we're going to close our NHL segment out here in the penalty box. And then my man William Gaucher Esquire, he's going to come on down and give us our 2-minute drill here as we close out the big hit. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with the 2-minute drill right after this.
Students in communications media at Indiana University of Pennsylvania can focus on a variety of areas, including media promotions. Our promotions students learn their skills by working in a hands-on environment, gaining real-world experience. They learn how to use media to promote, produce, and manage events, and how media organizations operate. They create promotional campaigns and help clients pitch their services, products, and events. With excellent classes led by experienced teachers, the Communications Media Department at IUP is perfect for students interested in media promotions.
Hello, everyone. And I have to begin this show by giving a special thank you to Jose Villanueva for filling in for the 2-minute drill. He did an amazing job. Thank you, Jose. And secondly, shout out to my main man, Josh Hill. He is the inspiration behind my dress that he compliments on every week. But anyway, I'm William Gaucher, and this is the 2-minute drill. We have a new champion, ladies and gentlemen. The Kansas City Royals captured their first World Series title in 30 years, much to the delight of the Royals faithful, which held their celebration parade on Tuesday. Now with back-to-back World Series appearances and a title to add to it, this young nucleus could be the beginnings of a dynasty. Or with the MLB continuously growing younger, will another team step into the spotlight? I guess we'll have to wait until April to find out. The NFL trade deadline is upon us, and teams will be looking to replace some key pieces that were lost this week due to injuries. Either there was something in the new Gatorade bottles, or players didn't eat their Wheaties on Sunday. With so many injuries to high-profile offensive players, it seems that even the new rules that are set in place that basically make it impossible for defensive players, as it is frowned upon to hit below the knees, to tackle, but that still doesn't seem to be preventing career injuries. Don't lose sight that the NFL is one of America's greatest exports, as well as one of America's most watched TV shows weekly. And it is also a corporation with heavy investment on entertainment. It intends to invest to protect those investments and the offensive players that those investments are. Tuesday, the first college football playoff bracket was announced. Clemson, LSU, defending champion Ohio State, and Alabama were voted in the top 4. And the chaos begins. Notre Dame is the first team out, and once again, Baylor and TCU are on the outside looking in. But there's still a lot of football to be played, people. Last season, when the first rankings arrived, Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss were the ones in. By the time the final rankings came out in Week 14, only Florida State would remain. Ohio State will make a dramatic climb for number 16 to capture the first college football playoff championship. So be patient. It's going to be madness in November. From director Michael Martone, producers Kyle Condor and Vaughn Dizel, the entire Big Hit crew, I'm William Gaucher. Have an excellent week.